Well, I know by the time you're watching this video, it will be after Christmas. But as you can see, I still have the Christmas tree up. That's because it's the day after Christmas, and I just got off of the Appalachian Trail 2 days ago. I finished my 2020 Appalachian Trail through hike on December the 23rd. Since it's been a couple days since I got off trail, I haven't had a chance to completely unpack my backpack yet. So I thought I would do a video and show you all of the gear that I finished the trail with. It's nice to see what people are going to take out on a hike at the beginning of the through hike, but I think it's even like nicer to see what someone who's done the entire trail, what gear do they end up with? What gear do they actually end up using? So this is the pack that I ended up with. I started out with a Waymark gear, Lite 50, but the hip belt became a little too big and I just was not able to get another pack ordered and get it made in time. So I ended up ordering a ULA Circuit, and I got that, and that ended up being what I carried for the rest of my hike. So I would say I carried it for probably 3/4 of my hike. Overall, the pack did great. It does really great for carrying a lot of heavy gear. And then basically the way you see everything is kind of how I packed it. So I'll just kind of go from the outside in. So on the outside I had Crocs. I picked these up in Pennsylvania. I was carrying a different, like some zero sandals, but I wanted something that was closed toe. I just think Crocs, honestly, they end up being great. They're pretty lightweight. I like how you can have them where you can slip your feet in. But anyway, but they were tie-dyed. I thought they were so cool. So anyway, that's what I got. And as you can see, they've done really great. I just bought some carabiners at Walmart, and these worked great. And so that's what I wore. I mainly just use them more for town than anything. I rarely wore them very much at camp because usually I just got my tents up and got in my tent. But they also work great as a water shoe when you're doing water crossings. So in this front stretchy pocket, I had my rain jacket, which is a Montbell Versalite. I love this thing. It's super lightweight, very breathable. It was a great item to use for a warm layer, and I loved it. I had the Montbell Versalite Rainpants, which I also loved. Also super lightweight. Of course, they are pretty fragile because they're so lightweight. So as you can see, I got a lot of tears and stuff. I just used tenacious tape, and that actually worked really well. So I love these. Like, as you can see, they're still dirty. I need to wash them off. I did not have to use this very much. It's the Zpacks pack cover. I actually lost my Zpacks pack cover when I was in New Hampshire, and ended up picking up just a seal nylon one at an outfitter, and it actually worked fine. It was Sea to Summit, it worked great, but my husband ordered me another Zpacks one. But I do like the Enigma just because it didn't absorb water. So it doesn't necessarily keep your pack completely dry, but it does help minimize as much wetness. So I liked having it, and this like weighs an ounce, so it was worth it to carry it. Of course, I had toilet paper. I always kept in a Ziploc. Let's see what else is here. Oh, and then I had my tripod. I rarely use this, to be honest with you. I never used it to like hike with, but like if I wanted to take photos, like some more like epic style photos, I would set this up and then, you know, use this little Bluetooth thing to take pictures. So that's what I would do. So that's mainly what I use that for. And I usually just kind of kept that in that front pocket. My first aid kit / toolkit, and this has like a whole bunch of like just random things. I always kept in just a Ziploc bag, a freezer bag, and that worked great. I did actually use some of this stuff. Some of the stuff I didn't use, but it's kind of just, it really was pretty lightweight. But I mean, I had things like tenacious tape. I had a few Band-Aids. I had this little guy here, this little Swiss Army knife, I guess, thing, and that was great. I was so glad I had that. I carried like clippers and toenail clippers, which I used. I actually carried an extra one of these when I had my Sawyer. I never actually had to use that. I don't know, and then I had some Luco tape, which I did use a few times. It was nice to have all those things kind of just in case. Of course, I had my tent stakes, which these were the Zpacks. Cannot remember the name of these. I can't remember the name, but these are like the toughest ones. These were awesome. They never bent, they never broke. They worked great. They held my tent up, and I had it in a little Zpacks tent stake bag, Enigma fabric. So that was that held up really well. Had my trowel, you know, for going in the bathroom, digging holes. And then my headlamp was the Black Diamond, I forgot the name. I forgot which one this is. If I can think of it, I'll put the name on the video. But you use 3 AAA batteries for this. And I just like that better than, I know you can buy rechargeable batteries, but here's the thing. I did a lot of night hiking at times, and if I'd had a rechargeable battery and then if the charge died, I couldn't keep hiking. I would have to stop and let it charge. So I personally like just having this because I just carried extra AAA batteries. It really wasn't a big deal. It didn't add like that much extra weight at all. And I always had the security that I knew I had a headlamp if I needed it. And then on my side pockets, on one side I always carried a liter life water bottle. So at the end of my hike, I ended up getting the, I think it's Katadyn. I'm not sure exactly how you say that. Be Free. And it's the liter. I got this like the last month of my hike. And that was just because it was basically cold by then. I wasn't drinking as much water, so I didn't have to like carry extra water. And this is a little easier to like camel up along, like you can just get water and then drink it. And it just seems a little easier to me. You can do that. Most of my hike I carried the Sawyer filter, and you can do that. You can put that on the bottle and drink it, but it is really awkward. It's kind of big, and I never like to leave my filters out. I don't know. So I just felt like this was harder to camel up with than this is. And so I just ended up using this at the end of my hike, like the last month. And it worked really great. The biggest thing, but most of my hike I used the Scenoc bladder. I used a 2-liter one with the Sawyer filter, the just regular squeeze. And there's a blue coupling cap that you want to have for this, which will attach to this. And for some reason, I don't have it. I've lost it. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, so I did actually lose 2 of these on the trail. And this is my 3rd one. And that's because I would hang it and then I would forget about it and leave it. So just be careful if you carry one of these. And then I usually always had a little scoop. It was basically cut, like I'd take a smart water bottle. I usually use a liter one just because it was a little wider. This one's the smaller one. I cut it to where it would have like a little bit of a kind of a scoop. Anyway, it was just made it easier to scoop water, especially in the summer months. This was really handy. If you carry the Katadyn, you might not necessarily need that, but I still liked having it because sometimes water can get kind of dirty, and it's like, so it kind of kept the dirt more here. And then the other side pocket would have, so it would sometimes have, okay, so at the end of my hike, my last month, I did not carry my stove. I sent my stove home, but it would normally have my stove. And my stove was this. It was always in this little mesh thing. And it was a Vargo Titanium cup and with a lid. And then I just had the little BRS stove, which worked great the whole time with a lighter. And I always kept it in this little mesh thing that weighed nothing, and it kept everything from losing stuff. But that was my cup. And I always had one of these little mini fuel canisters. And then I always had a little towelette. I think I got this at REI. It's like a mini one. And that's what I would wipe things out with. And I also kept this wrapped in it because if you don't, this can rust and it'll rust your cups. And then I carried this for the majority of my hike. I think I picked it up. I don't remember when I picked it up. I picked it up in Maine. And I love this thing. I had Carnation Instant Breakfast with like protein powder almost every day of my hike. And this was great for that. I could shake it up. You could probably use a life water bowl, but they're really thin at the top. It was really hard to pour it into there without spilling it. I just liked having this for that. It was great. I was able to put a lot of my stickers on it, which I loved. So it's a little mini Nalgene bottle, and I just love it. So it has a little hook, so you could either hook it from your pack, and a lot of times it just sat inside the pocket, and it really doesn't weigh too much. Then I had on the outside here, I had my pee rag, which is a Kula cloth. They actually tell you to hand wash these things, but I didn't the whole time. I just always washed my clothes on delicate, and it seemed to work just fine. So yeah. And then on the top of my pack, I had my butt seat, you could call it. So this changed out several times throughout my hike. I started out with a large Nemo switchback, and then ended up finding a like pink one that was lighter, and I really liked it, and I started carrying that. Well, you know, I ended up getting poison ivy like really bad all over my back, and I don't know if it was from my foam seat, because I would lay this out and kind of lay on it, and I loved having this big thing to lay on, but it kind of freaked me out when I got the poison ivy, so I ended up just throwing it away because I thought it might have poison ivy on it. And when I was in Maine, there was one of the Thermarest seats, like the partial like this, that someone had just left, you know, for in the hiker box. So I took it and I just cut it just to make it smaller, because that was one of the things about when I was hiking. I would have this up here, and so see, it would, because it hung over, it would get caught sometimes on branches and things. So that's why I ended up doing this. Plus it made it lighter. I had two hip belt pockets. Let me just show you real quick. Two hip belt pockets. And so on one side, I would always have snacks through the day. It was like bars and things like that. So I would also have some kind of bars, just so I could eat quickly when I wouldn't have to stop and take my pack off and things. And that way I could still be getting food through the day. And so I did eat a lot of bars. And so that was always in that one of the side pockets. And then in the other pocket would be just random, sometimes it was random things, but it's usually some type of chapstick for my lips, just to keep my lips from getting chapped. And then I always had a pair of sunglasses, polarized sunglasses, which actually does come in handy, believe it or not, even with the green tunnel. A lot of times my buff would be in there, and my buffs changed throughout my hike. But I usually had two of these, at least the majority of my hike. These are great. You can use these for so many things. I used it as a bra once. And so I highly recommend to have at least one, if not two, of these on your hike. I had the AWOL guide in addition to the GoHook app. And I bought the AWOL guide that was the loose leaf paper. And so I would always take out that day's paper, like for the trails, the mileage I was doing, and I would always fold that up and put it in my side pocket so I could grab it really quickly. I would keep it in a plastic bag so if it didn't rain, it didn't get wet and ruined, and I didn't have any way to look at it. I always had my mind's like, what do you call these things? Handkerchief, whatever you call these things. It was basically like a snot / sweat rag, and yeah, I got used for both. And then I had my water bottle, which this is not the water bottle I carry, but it's just all I have right now. And I just strapped in here like this, and it worked great. And I had a little plastic straw that I'll have to find and show it to you. Okay, I found it. So this is just like a little plastic tubing, and you get this at like a hardware store. So my friend Mama Bear introduced me to these. She had them on, she was hiking, and she gave me one. And basically the way it works is you just cut it to kind of fit, and it goes into the little hole for the flip cap, and you do this, and then basically you could just drink out of that through the day without having to, you know, take anything off, and it just makes it so convenient. It's basically like having a bladder without having to have a bladder. And this is the eighth of an inch. I think this is an eighth of an inch. Can't remember. But anyway, you just cut it with scissors, and it's so awesome. And then over here I had my Garmin, Garmin Mini, which actually worked really great. I used it to send preset texts to my husband, my mom, several times a day to let them know when I was starting the day, when I was ending my day. I could also use it to send personalized messages. You can use it for tracking too. I didn't. It uses a lot of battery and cost a lot more money. So I did not do that. I didn't think it was necessary. You could send SOS too, you know, if you absolutely needed to. And then I always had some hand sanitizer. You know, that was definitely important for this year. I did not carry this most of my hike at all, but the last month I did. My pack does not have a whistle built in, and it's orange, so I thought that added some more orange to my pack. Plus I thought if for some reason, like there was hunters out and I was, you know, you're supposed to kind of talk, but I thought they didn't hear me, I could blow the whistle and it would help. And on the inside of my pack, I always had a baseball cap, and it changed out through the year. Ended up with an orange one because of the season, of the hunting season, but this one was an Appalachian Trail one, so I picked that up in Harper's Ferry. And then I always had two bags up here. One was my trash. It's what I would put all my trash in. It was just a Ziploc bag. And then the other was a Ziploc bag. It was a gallon Ziploc bag. And this is what I would put whatever food I was going to eat for the day, like my lunch food and things like that. I would put that in this bag so I didn't have to dig into my pack to get out food to eat through the day. So that's what would always be up here. I usually had like bags of chips and stuff, and that would always be in the top of my pack. And then the next thing that in my pack would be my tent, because as soon as I got to camp, I wanted to set my tent up. So I had the Zpacks Duplex tent, and it worked great the entire time. And then I had for my ground cloth, you don't necessarily just have to have a ground cloth for the Zpacks tent, but I wanted to make sure my gear stayed as good as possible. I don't have any tears in my tent or anything, and that's because I used a Tyvek ground sheet, and this was amazing. I love this Tyvek. I think it's the best ground cloth you could possibly use for any tent. You can cut it to size. If you put it in the washer without any soap, it will make it really soft, so you can basically fold it, as much as you want. It's still in great shape. I love it. And then, of course, was my food bag. My food bag was the Lite AF, and it worked great. I never got any holes or tears. I never had any mice bother my pack or my food bag, and it held all my food really well. And then inside of this, I always had an odor-proof bag. I loved these. I thought it worked great. Even when the closure didn't close as good, I could still fold it over. I don't know. It still kept what food was in it pretty like non-smelly. You didn't smell it very much. And like I said, I never had a problem with mice or bears or anything. And I think that might have been too because of the odor-proof bag. I used a trash compactor bag inside my pack as a liner. I started out with the clear one, but those are really thin and they didn't last. Like it was torn like within a month, not even a month. So I used trash compactor bag. It lasted the whole time. It was great. So I had another Enigma fabric bag. This is also from Zpacks, and this is my electronics bag. And inside of this, I had my iPhone cord, charging cord. I had my USB cord, and this is what charged my Garmin, and it also charged the battery pack. I carried an Anker, and it was a double port one. Now these are all fast charging things. I would recommend that because that way you're not waiting as long to charge your stuff. And I got the one that folds. And then I carried some Bluetooth headphones. I rarely use these when I was hiking, but it was nice to have these so that if I was like at camp and I didn't want to disturb people, or if I wanted to use them on the trail or something, I did like having them. And I liked having the Bluetooth because I started out with corded ones and the cord kept getting caught. I didn't like that. So these work great, and these are like MPow brand. I'll link my lighter pack list of all this stuff in the description. And then I had the Anker 20,000 milliamp battery, and it had double ports. This thing was amazing. It worked great. Yeah, it's kind of heavy, but I never ever was without power, ever, my entire hike. So it was worth it, especially even through the 100-mile. I never lost. I was even able to help charge another hiker's stuff. And then I always carried extra batteries. Now, I normally didn't carry it in this plastic. I usually just had it in a freezer bag, but at the end, I just carried it in this because it was easier. And then I had like a little gel pack just to keep my kind of moisture off of the battery pack, charged pack. So I had that the whole time. And then I had my puffy, which was a Patagonia something. I don't remember what this was called. This is the synthetic version. I had a tent down, but just ended up buying a synthetic because I thought, well, at least if it got wet, it was still keeping warm. Truth be told, I never hardly use this my entire hike, even in the winter. I would only use it in winter when I got to camp, setting up my tent, and then maybe when I was in my tent, just kind of getting ready for the night. But when I slept at night, I never wore this. I always took it off. I found that I was warmer if I did not wear this. So I still think it's good to have one of these, but honestly, I never used it. I hiked in it one time for like 5 minutes in the winter, in the cold, and I thought it was gonna burn up. So yeah, just food for thought. Then I also had a collapsible Nalgene bottle, which I used basically as a pee bottle. I kept it by 10 at night. It was amazing. I loved having this. It was very convenient. I actually would pee in it, not to TMI, but pee in it, and then pour it out around my tent to keep the animals away. And I'm telling you, I had mice come to my tent once. I did that, and I had no more mice come to my tent. So, something about it. So my toiletry bag was just always a Ziploc, gallon freezer Ziploc bag. And I had my little rolling device. I got this at the Dollar Tree. It was $1. But this thing was amazing. It lasted my whole hike. And this is what I rolled my legs out with, my feet out with. It worked great. I loved it. Awesome. And I ended up picking up some foot balm for my feet. I used it, you know, here and there. It worked really good, Badger foot balm. But it was just good, like your feet were really sore and tired in the evening. You put this on and it just kind of helps your feet feel better. And then this was my hairbrush, which is basically a full hairbrush, and I just pop the thing out. This worked great. This is the dry, when your hair's wet, the wet brush. And I thought this was like the best brush ever. So it worked really good, especially for long hair. At the end of my hike, I ended up with this little body glide because I didn't need as much as I did like in the summer months. But I actually like the Gold Bond friction. I think this works so much better than the body glide. And I carried the full thing in the summer months because I needed a lot of it. But I ended up with just this small one in the winter months. I didn't need it as much. Then I had a Ziploc bag that had my toothpaste in it, and then my toothbrush. And you can get these in the travel section. But I like this really good. So you could just carry that piece if you wanted to, but this doesn't weigh much. And it keeps it kind of from getting nasty or whatever. I don't know, personal preference. And then I did always have a razor. This is just a really lightweight one. I didn't like having my legs heavy, so I always carried a razor. And then I just had some wipes and Q-tips. Those come in very handy. And then at the end of my hike, I did end up with some lotion because my skin would get dry because of the cold weather. In the summer, I had sunscreen, but in the winter, I had that. Which you could probably use the sunscreen in the winter too. And then I also had some hand warmers. I usually like to try to have a little bit of hand warmers, and these are great to have to help keep you warm too. My sleeping pad that I ended up with was the Thermarest xTherm Max. It is rectangle. It's much warmer. It is heavier, but it was great to have in the cold. So I'm glad I had this at the end of my hike. So the last like month or so, I had this. But in the beginning of through the most of my hike, I had the Thermarest Neoair X Lite. It's okay, not my favorite. It's definitely lightweight. It's definitely durable, and it does last, but it's not as comfortable to me. I'm a side sleeper, and I toss and turn. Then I carried, like I said, the AWOL guide. I carried the loose leaf versions, and then I could just throw away each piece so that as I hiked, it got lighter and lighter. I always carried a pen in this. So this bag is what it comes with when you order it, and this worked great. This worked the whole time. I never got holes in it or anything. So and it's to help keep the papers dry. And then inside this, I would carry a pen in case I needed a pen to write, and a Sharpie in case I needed to. And I did find I did actually use those. So anyway, I had that. And then I had my clothing bag, which was also a Zpacks Duplex bag. And in it, I carried 2 extra pairs of socks besides the pair I was wearing. And I usually just try to carry the darn tough ones, so I had basically 3 pairs if I needed it. And then I had an extra pair of underwear, and these are the Under Armour, these are the Ex Officio brand underwear. They worked great, they worked fine. And then I had a couple plastic bags. This came in handy when I was in my tent, and I didn't like to ever leave any of my gear outside of my tent. So I would take my shoes and my Crocs, and I would put them in these bags so that they wouldn't get like dirt inside of my tent. So it came in handy for that. These also came in handy when I was in town and I needed to do laundry. I could put all my laundry in the bag, and then I had a bag. And then I always had sleeping clothes, which is basically a long sleeved, this is just a polyester shirt. I don't know. It's real soft. It's long sleeved. And then I had that, and I had a pair of leggings, an extra pair. And then I try to get the lightest and smallest thing I could get. Truthfully, I almost never wore these at night. I had them as backup in case my clothes got wet and I needed dry clothes, but I never ended up having to change. So I almost never wore these at camp, but these were good when I was in town doing laundry and I couldn't have loaner clothes. So yeah, that's what I had for that. Then my sleeping bag system. So I always carried my sleeping bag inside of a compressed sack. So the nice thing with having it here is this is another layer of dryness. So if for some reason like it poured rain and then this somehow got wet, this would still help keep my sleeping bag dry. Plus it compacted it so it didn't take up so much room in my pack. And it also keeps it from getting damaged, like torn or something from something. This was the granite gear. It's really lightweight. I really liked it. It worked great. And then inside of here, ooh, this is probably gonna smell. Oh my God. Ooh, I haven't taken it out yet. I had my pillow and I ended up having to get another one because my other one kind of messed up. But it's a Sea Summit, it's a large. I loved it, it worked great. And towards the end of the hike, this is a total luxury item, I didn't need it, but I carried a pillowcase. It's just a travel pillowcase, but it kind of made my pillow feel more like an actual pillow, and that's why I wanted it. It doesn't weigh much. I liked having it. So, and then my sleeping quilt, I carried most of my hike except for during the summer months because it got too hot. But it was an Enlightened equipment. It's a 10 degree. It's the Enigma. I love this quilt. This company's quilts are the most amazing. They're so warm. Like I said, this was 10 degree. I never got cold, ever, in this thing. It was amazing. And like I said, I don't wear a lot of layers in this. It's, in fact, you're warmer, or at least I was warmer not having a lot of layers. But this was amazing. It worked great, and I loved it. And then I said, like, all my gear is in really good shape. Nothing like got messed up or anything. But now in the summer, because that was way too hot for summer, I ended up ordering something off of Amazon. It was just like a lighter weight quilt. I got it for like 60 bucks, 50 bucks or something. And it actually worked really well too. So that's what I used in the summer, but that's not what I use in the winter. And then the clothes that I wore. So I always had a watch that I wore just so I could see what time it was real quick. And this just came from Walmart, but it worked great the whole time. The jacket I had, so I had basically like a 3-layer system in the cold. So I would have my base layer, which was my short sleeve shirt. It's Smartwool. I highly recommend merino wool for hiking in, period, the whole time. I had some different clothing earlier on, switched, and I'm so happy because this just worked better. It traps odor better, so it's not as smelly, and it just works better to keep the moisture off of you. And I love this Smartwool shirt. It works so great. I love this thing. So yeah, that's what I wore all the time. And then my pants, my leggings. So I had shorts on for a long time, but like the last month or so, my hike, it got pretty cool. So I just wore leggings, and they are the Smartwool, and I recommend the 250. So there's different thicknesses, I guess you could say. And I had the 150 at one point in the summer months, but they got tears in them. But the 250, I never got a tear or anything, like no snags. Yeah, this was great. And this is Smartwool. I love those leggings. And then I had, of course, the ex officio underwear, which were great. And then I had a pair of Darn Tough socks. These were like the mid-weight cushion ones. They worked really great. My bra was a Patagonia Barely bra, and that worked really good. It was pretty comfortable. Towards the end, this part just kind of bothered my back, but I don't think it was the bra. They were just, wearing a sports bra, period. And then my jacket, so this is what I wore most of the time because it would be pretty cold, but it was something I could take on and off if I did get warm. But it was a Patagonia R1 hoodie. I love this thing. I do personally recommend having one with a hoodie. I used it a lot because the wind would blow, and this would just help keep the wind off of you. It has a layer of like if it were to say like sprinkling rain or snowing or something, it still kind of kept the wetness off of you. I liked the jacket version just because it was easy to get on and off, and it was just amazing. I think this is an amazing jacket. It's really probably too much for like summer months, but for like any type of cold weather at all, this is so great. I love this thing, and it worked great, and it's still in great shape. And then I had a pair of Dirty Girl gaiters. At one point, what's funny is I actually sent these home because I thought I don't need them. Found out really quickly that I did need them, so I got them back. I actually ended up buying these. This is a different one. I got them in Pennsylvania, but they were great and they lasted and they're still good. And I just loved these things and they helped. I never got debris in my shoes because with those things. And then I had a pair of North Face gloves that my friend Angela got for me, and these worked really great. I liked the size of them. They weren't too bulky, and for the most part, like only a couple times did my hands get kind of cold a little bit, but I just kind of shook my hands and that helped, but they were great. And then of course I had a beanie, and this kind of changed throughout the hike, but I ended up with the orange one because again, it was hunting season, so. And then I had on the front of me that I carried, I picked this up kind of halfway through my hike, and it's a Patagonia fanny pack. I love this little Patagonia fanny pack, but it kept my phone in here. And then in this little front zipper, I kept my wallet with my, credit card and driver's license and, money. And this is a little Zpacks Duplex wallet. I kept my mask, which I ended up needing a lot for when I went into town and things. So I had that. And I got this from REI. It's just Cotopaxi. I love this little thing. It's so cute. Anyway, and of course Baby Yoda stayed in there. Grogu. But he was Baby Yoda on the trail. And then I kept that this little guy, which is what I used when I wanted to take pictures. I kept that in there too. And then I guess last but not least was my trekking poles. And they were amazing. I love these things. They're the Black Diamond Alpine carbon cork. I put like little tape on it so I knew these were mine because other people had this brand too. But I hiked with these every single day. They also are what set my tent up. And these things lasted the entire time. Almost 200 miles. They never broke. They never got messed up. And they're still going. And I just love these trekking poles. So that's all the gear that I ended up with on my 2020 Appalachian Trail through hike. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with everything. And everything held up really well. So I hope that helps you out when you're deciding what gear you're going to take for your through hike, or what gear you might want to purchase for just doing some backpacking or some hiking. I got everything put up and realized I forgot a couple of items. There's just so much like gear. It's hard to like fit it all into a video, but just real quick, a couple items that I left out were my spoon, which I actually ended up getting given to me in Maine. But it's just from Walmart. It's the Ozark Trail, but it's a long plastic spoon. And then my wedding ring that I wore through the whole hike, I had these like silicone band, and it's from Saferingz is the name of the company, but it really is like so comfortable. I forget I even have it on. And then my shoes. I totally forgot about my shoes. My entire hike, I wore Saucony Peregrine 8s, except for the last 400 miles or so. No, it wasn't even that many miles. But they started hurting my feet. Maybe it was like just like the last couple hundred miles. I don't even remember anymore. But I ended up switching into a different shoe with more cushion, and that was the Hoka. These are Hoka Speedgoat 4. Yeah, Hoka Speedgoat 4. So these worked really great as far as they have a lot of cushion and arch support, and they even had pretty good tread. So they worked really pretty good. They have started coming apart, and so yeah, that's the only downside. They didn't seem like they're lasting for very many miles, but overall they were great shoes. So that was the shoes I wore. And now we can end this video. Finally.